Hi, and welcome to the Inflectra webinar on testing Microsoft Dynamics CRM or 365 for Sales with Rapise. The presenter today will be Denis Marketsev from Inflectra, and we will be going through, first of all, the challenges of testing Dynamics CRM or 365 for Sales applications, specifically how the web page is constructed and why that makes testing more difficult. We'll then be going through how to actually record a Dynamics CRM test using Rapise, using its scriptless language known as RVL. In this, we'll be creating a new sales lead, verifying the creation of the lead, then doing the data cleanup at the end to restore it back to its starting position. We'll also be talking about how you can integrate your tests with the SpiraTeam Application Lifecycle Management System, how you can do data-driven testing using Excel sheet, SpiraTeam, or desk-driven data inside your test case. And then lastly, we'll be showing you how you can use the JavaScript scripting language that comes with Rapise to do more advanced testing than can be done using the visual language. After that, we'll be having a brief Q&A.
Thank you, Adam. Hello, everyone. So we are starting our webinar. Rapise is a general-purpose tool for automated testing of desktop, web, and mobile applications. And it has special support for Microsoft Dynamics family of products, including Dynamics 365 for Sales. With Rapise, you can simulate end user behavior and verify system output. Let me quickly describe some features of Dynamics for Sales, which are important for test automation tools. So Dynamics for Sales is a single-page application. So let's connect to it using Rapise Spy to see how it is organized internally. So the Spy loads the DOM tree of the application, and we'll show it shortly. So we see it here. So let's find iframe elements inside the application. And you can see here that all of the controls of the current view are inside the same iframe. So Dynamics loads controls inside frames which can be changed with one another. And such iframes may have nesting level 2 or even more. And one of the problems is that these iframes, they have dynamic IDs, which means that the number at the end of the ID can change every time you visit the same view in Dynamics. So it can be 1, 2, 10, and even more. So such dynamic IDs make testing Dynamics for Sales is a hard task for UI automation tools. So if you record selectors of elements inside Dynamics as is with the current IDs, so you will have issues during test playback. Also, let's go to another view in Dynamics. This application has a very complex grid control, which is used everywhere. And if you record interactions with elements in this grid as is, for example, if I click on an element and record that it is inside column 2 and row 3 of a table, then next time I run my test, I may hit a problem, because if someone will configure Dynamics to have different sets of columns in this table, we will hit into the wrong column. And also the value can be shown in different row as well. And if we will have just selector which contains row 3 and column 2, we may miss our target. So this is why it is important to understand this grid as a complex object and be able to click in a column with a specific name and in the row that contains specific value. So Rapise is able to cope with such features of Dynamics for Sales. So let's see how we can create a Dynamics for Sales test. I am going to record a simple test which should add a new lead in Dynamics. So this is Rapise, so I am going to File, New Test menu, and I am presented New Test dialog. Rapise is connected to SpiraTeam, which is an application lifecycle management tool from Inflectra. This is a web-based tool. So using it, you can track incidents, requirements, and tests for your projects. So I will show it in more details a bit later. So what I'm going to do right now is to create a test case inside SpiraTeam and attach my test to this test case. So I hit New Test Case button. So let's name it D365 Sales New Lead 2. And the new test case is created in SpiraTeam. And now, since Dynamics 365 for Sales is a web application, so I need to select Web Cross-Browser Testing Support methodology. This methodology means that if I record my test using one browser, I'll be able to execute it on other browsers without any changes. So I am creating the new test, and I need to select a browser that I will be using for recording my test. I will use Firefox, the last version. And also, the last choice I need to make is to choose between how I'm going to work with my test. I can work with it using RVL, Rapise Visual Language. This is a spreadsheet-based approach to creating tests. Or I can program it using pure JavaScript. So I will choose RVL for now. So Rapise created an empty test, and I'm going to record my test scenario. So let's go to Dynamics, put it into initial state. So it loads the welcome screen. Now I go to Rapise and select Record button. At the right top corner, you can see Recording Activity dialog, and this dialog will show actions captured by Rapise while I will be interacting with Dynamics. So I click on Sales, go to Table of Leads. Now I hit New Lead button, and the form with new lead is loaded. So let's fill some basic information about the lead. So the topic and the name of my lead. So let it be James Bond. And let's select a few drop-down values like lead source and purchase process here. Okay, so let's save the lead. So it is saved, and you can see the lead at the top of the table. So now I want to move my system into initial state. So I am going to go inside this lead, And in recording activity dialog, you can see that Rapise captured my click as a click on a column name and on the value James Bond. So my click now does not depend on where this value is shown in the grid and where the column is located. It can be a second column or it can be a fourth column next time I run my test. Okay, so sometimes when you create a test for web application, you want to verify something, that some particular element is present on screen. So let's verify that we are on the lead page. So I place my mouse over the lead word on the page and press Ctrl 1. So you can see that this element was highlighted. And Rapise show me the properties of this element. So let's verify that it has a text lead. I press OK, and Rapise generates assertion code for me. Okay, let's delete this lead and move the application into initial state. So I press delete button, confirm, and go to the home page. So now I can finish my recording and go to Rapise. It prompts me to where I want to insert newly recorded steps. So I insert them here. So this is RVL. This is a simple spreadsheet with a few predefined columns, and it is very easy to understand. So for example, the line 3 shows that we have an action. We need to find an object sales and perform click on this object. To the left, you can see the tree of objects that were captured by Rapise during recording. And these objects grouped by window title when they were captured. So you can see all of these objects here. So I need to perform a few tweaks to my recorded test to make it executing reliably. Why I need to do this is that this is a web application, and loading a page sometimes may have unpredictable times. So each time Dynamics performs some time-consuming operation, I need to do some synchronization with it. So for example, let's go here. First, we navigate to the list of leads, and then we need to wait until the new button for a lead is active. So let's insert a few rows here, and I want to put additional step here. So there is a global object which has a method doWaitFor, and it has 3 parameters. First is the ID of the object we want to wait for. So let it be the new button. Second parameter is timeout. It means that Rapise will wait for this object for 10 seconds. And if it will not encounter this object within this timeout, then the test will fail. And the third parameter means how long to wait after we found this object. I will set here 2 seconds. So the values here are in milliseconds. Why I set this value here? This is because even Dynamics for Sales may show you all objects on the screen. It may need some time to execute JavaScript code inside to initialize the view. So this is why it makes sense to wait a bit to give time to Dynamics to make all the initial job. So let's remove some rows here. Okay, and I need to do such synchronization in a few more places in my script. So when I press on the new button, Dynamics loads the form for entering the new lead. So I want to wait for this topic control as well. So next place is after we submit the new lead to the system, Dynamics loads the grid. So let's wait for this grid as well. And the grid, loading the grid may be a very lengthy operation, so better to have 30 seconds here. The timeout doesn't mean that Rapise will wait all 30 seconds. If it will encounter this object on the page earlier, it will proceed to the next steps. So, and the last place where I need to do this is after I click in the grid. Also, when I click in the grid, I need, by default, it performs a single click, but really it makes sense to do double click. So this is why I'm adding third parameter to this section and specify double click. And the last place where I need to wait is loading of the lead. Okay, and now my test is ready to be executed. And also I want to do a few more tweaks to the settings of the test. I go to Settings tab, and I will set stop on error parameter to true. It means that I do not want to execute the test if continue to execute the test if something goes wrong. And also I want to capture screenshots during test execution. It is handy when you analyze test execution results. So if you have screenshots for overnight test execution, you can have an idea where something went wrong. So let's set capture execution true, include into report, and capture widget only. Okay, so now my test is ready to be executed. So let's execute it. So now Rapise performs execution of the test automatically. So press this new button and starts entering values for the new lead. So all this is performed automatically right now. While test is executed, Rapise captures screenshots, and when the test finishes execution, we will see those screenshots inside the report. All right, so let's go into Rapise. Here is the report. It shows each step which Rapise performed during execution, and also all screenshots are embedded inside the report. So our test is linked to SpiraTeam test case. So actually, let me do the final tweak here. The first line should be open. I need it here to not reload the page when the test starts to execute. Okay, let's save our test into Spire. So what this action does, it stores all the files of my test inside SpiraTeam. And using SpiraTeam, I can schedule execution of the test on any computer in my network. And execution results will be automatically uploaded to SpiraTeam for further analysis. So let's go into SpiraTeam and testing test cases. And here is our test case ULEAD2. You can see that it was not run yet. And here in the test case, we can see that this test case is linked to Rapise Test. And here is the list of files stored inside SpiraTeam. To execute the test case, I need to create a test set in SpiraTeam. So I go to test sets list, new test set. Let's name it D365 sales. Okay, it is created. Test set should list test cases that it needs to execute. So I go to the table of test cases, press add. I see the list of available test cases, set a checkbox, and save it here. So test case is added to the test set. So when I was creating my test, I said that it is a cross-browser test, that it is possible to execute this test in different browsers. So for my test set, I'm going to create a configuration that will automatically execute it in two browsers, in Firefox and in Chrome. So let's go to configurations and create a new configuration. Let's name it browsers. So we go inside. And now we want to generate a table of parameters that will be automatically passed to Rapise when it needs to execute the test. So I go to test configuration entries, press populate button, select a parameter. Browser library is a parameter accepted by Rapise, which tells Rapise what browser to use for test execution. Also, I have a list of available browsers. And let's press populate. And here we have a table with possible values for browser library parameter. Let's go back to our test set. And here in the test set, I should tell that it should use configuration browsers, configuration that I just created. Also, my test set is automated, and I want to launch it. Where I want to launch it, I need to choose automation host. My current host on which I'm working on is this one. So let's save the test set. So what does the magic of execution of the test? So let's close Rapise at this point. There is a special component which is called Rapise Launcher. It is installed together with Rapise. So this is a service which constantly queries SpiraTeam for tasks it needs to execute. So if SpiraTeam has a test set which is scheduled for execution, then Rapise Launcher receives this task and starts to execute. So before execution, what I want to do is to open Chrome browser. So actually I need to open it in a special way, which allows to do cross-frame operation. Let's open Dynamics here as well. So in this demo, I did not record any login operation into Dynamics because it's a different story. So now I have two browsers opened, Chrome and Firefox. So here is Rapise Launcher, and here is SpiraTeam. So let's set planned execution date to some date in the past to make it overdue. Okay, so I saved my test set. And now in Rapise Launcher, we will see that there is a test set that needs to be executed by Rapise Launcher. Here it is. And now Rapise Launcher will execute the same test two times. First time it will execute it, I think, on Chrome. Yes, so you can see right now that Chrome, Firefox is active. It is Firefox. And the second time, the test must be executed on Chrome. And then in SpiraTeam, we will see results for both executions. So while this test is executing, you can write your questions into chat window. And after the demo, Adam will speak them loud, and I will try to answer them. Okay, so you can see that Firefox execution was finished. And now our Rapise Launcher should execute the same on Chrome. So it takes some time to initialize. Yeah. So now you can see that Chrome is active. And Rapise executes the test inside Chrome. So this is why I added those synchronization code, because you saw that this time, for some reason, Dynamics loaded the page slower than it was in Firefox. So basically, this is the nature of web applications. So sometimes things are loaded unpredictably slow. Okay, so execution completed. And now Rapise Launcher uploads all the results into SpiraTeam. So let's go into SpiraTeam. This is our test set, and it has a tab test runs. Okay, we see here that this test was executed 2 times. So let's go into the first run. Scroll it. And here you can see the same report as was displayed in Rapise. So it shows steps performed by Rapise during execution, and it shows screenshots. And also, if you will scroll down, you will see that this test was executed for Firefox. So let's go to another one. And here we can see that the test was executed for Chrome. Okay, so this is how you can use SpiraTeam for executing the same test in different environments with different sets of input parameters. Let's return to Rapise. So we recorded a very simple test which has all values hard-coded. So, for example, if we scroll to the topic, we see here that the test entered Aston Martin value here, and it is hard-coded. What I want to do now is to parameterize this test, and I want to have parameters at the beginning of the test. So let me insert a few more rows and create a map which will have values inside columns. Let's name it config. And I will remove lines that I don't need. Let's name the column topic and set a value pen-gun, for example. And now I scroll down to the line which enters the value and select config as a type of my parameter. And then I tell Rapise that it needs to take value from topic column. All right, so it is here. So let's run our test. And this time it should enter the new parameter as a topic. So here it is. So what we have now is a simple test where parameters are declared at the beginning. So sometimes it may be enough. So before executing the test, you can just go into the beginning of the spreadsheet and tweak some values. So it may be useful for some exploratory testing. But sometimes you have a table of data which you want to iterate and input into your system. So let's create a spreadsheet. So by the way, this is a files view which shows all the files from which our test consists of. So let's create a new spreadsheet. Let's name it data. And I think that 5 rows and 5 columns is enough. So let's name the column topic and specify 2 rows of data. and the second row bug detector. So I created a spreadsheet. I don't need to view it anymore. And here in the RVL, so let's insert few more rows. I will create a new map of type range, which should be bound to my spreadsheet that I just created. Let's name it config as well. Spreadsheet is data. Sheet name is sheet 1. And also I want to read only columns and rows which have values. Okay. And I want to iterate through this map and execute the same scenario for each row of data. So this way I will have data-driven test. So let's create a loop here. It should take values from map config. And the last step I need to do is to move this end statement after all the steps. Okay, so now I have a loop which will go through data XLS file, will get the same values from rows, and will execute the same steps for each row. So let's execute our test. And it should perform the same 2 times. First time it should create a lead with topic test gun. And the second time it should use bug detector. So this is a classic data-driven approach when you have your data in external spreadsheet and you feed this spreadsheet to the logic of the test. Also, there is a way to have all these values inside SpiraTeam and submit them using global parameters, like we did with browser library. So you also can have these values in SpiraTeam. So right now it should enter bug detector. Yeah. So with Rapise, there are various ways how you can parameterize and make your test data-driven. So far, we used RVL. This spreadsheet-based approach is convenient for people who don't have programming background, probably domain experts who know what the application should do, what data to enter where, so they don't want to cope with JavaScript and programming. But sometimes, if you have people who know programming on the team, it may be easier and more convenient to them to not use spreadsheets, but to use JavaScript. So this is also possible. So let's go into our RVL. And I will show you how the same test looks in JavaScript. So I will select the steps here and copy selection as JavaScript. Go to the main file of our test, which by default simply plays the spreadsheet. And I'm going to paste what I just copied from the spreadsheet. So this is how the same test looks in JavaScript. So it's pretty similar and very easy to understand. So each statement consists of 3 parts. So for example, first part is instructs Rapise that it needs to find an object with this particular ID, then that it needs to perform some action, and some actions needs input parameters which can be passed to the action, for example, like here. Rapise supports such thing as objects. Let's find our grid inside the object tree. So let me expand it. So here we see that the grid that we saw in Dynamics, what you can do with this grid. You can click on a cell, you can get full text in this grid. You can analyze the number of rows, column names, and so on and so forth. And if you forgot which parameters should be passed to this action, you can always select it here in the object tree, press F1 key combination, and Rapise will show the help file with descriptions of all parameters that should be passed to this action. So actually, Rapise has a very extensive help file, and for each technology it supports, it shows which specific controls are supported for this technology and which actions can be applied to objects and which properties can be analyzed with all the details. And also, if you write tests using JavaScript, you don't need to type everything manually. So what you can do is simply select the action in the object tree and drag drop it here, and probably modify parameters here. Okay, so I think that I showed everything that I wanted to show today. So do we have questions, Adam? Yes, this is possible, and we have a knowledge base article which describes this process very detailed, step by step, how you can use Jenkins. Probably yes, if you will see a significant demand for this. So currently, Rapise supports Dynamics 365 for sales and for operations as web applications, and also it has support for desktop applications like Dynamics AX and Dynamics NAV. Yep. Yeah, sure. Okay, good question. So let's open the folder where the Rapise test is located. And here we see a file, play command file. So let's show it. So this is basically a command line file which runs Rapise test and pass parameters to it. So Rapise has command line interface, and you can use it to integrate with almost any tool. So what you need is to launch it and pass correct set of parameters. Yeah, so actually we can execute the same test even without Rapise UI started. So I am closing the test, and I just can click on play, and you can see that the test is executing. Did I answer the question? So when we start recording, Rapise hooks keyboard and mouse and intercepts events from these devices to record the test. And during execution of the web test, there are two possibilities. So let's open Rapise again. Let's go to options, browser settings. Actually, Rapise supports such thing as browser profile. A browser profile means the type of the browser, the path to the browser, and command line parameters that needs to be passed when this browser is launched. So, for example, you may have different profiles for different portable versions of the same browser installed on the same machine. And the last parameter here is the type of the click that Rapise should use with the browser. And it supports basically two types. It can simulate events using JavaScript, and it can perform a real physical click, like the user pressing mouse. And also, Rapise can execute the same test using Selenium WebDriver on remote machines. You don't need to do any changes to the test to execute it through Selenium. So using Selenium, you can execute the test on Safari, on Opera, and on remote machines without SpiraTeam. Did I answer? Also, when you record the test, so let me press recording. By default, Rapise captured your mouse interactions. If you want to do some actions that should not be captured by Rapise, you can press pause button on the recording activity dialog. It is highlighted with a green-like color. So I click on it, and I can do anything. So I can answer in Skype to my colleague, check email, then return to the application, press resume, and continue recording. And Rapise will capture actions. So again, I press pause, go somewhere, do something, and my actions are not recorded. Even if I click inside the application, my actions are not recorded. When I press resume and click somewhere, the action is recorded. And if I do not want my actions to be added into my test, I just press cancel. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for great questions.
Thanks for watching today's webinar. I hope it was useful. If you'd like to learn more about automated testing or see some of our other videos on ALM, software testing and test management, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much.